I'm in the big leagues, told him don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly. I'm making his dog, like I'm in the big leagues. Told him that I gotta go, dog. I'm riding a road, y'all. I think that I'm back in my bag now. So I need that go, y'all. Got hits when he throwing the fastball. Just too quick for it, peeling off like
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Another Turnover, the basketball podcast where a basketball fan with zero basketball credibility gives his opinions on what's going on in the NBA. Opinions that nobody asked for. As always, I am your host, Mr. Chris Aaron Murphy, aka Aaron. And ladies and gentlemen, let's just jump right into it. Folks, I want to start off today's show by talking about an NBA event that is coming up within the next couple weeks. Well, I guess it's about a month from now on the NBA schedule. But I want to talk about the All-Star Game a little bit. I want to jump right in and let's talk about the All-Star Game. So the All-Star Game is one of my favorite events in not just basketball, but all of sports. Really that entire weekend, you got, a slate of games. Usually the celebrity game is that Friday night. You have the Saturday night, which is the three-point contest, the dunk contest, the skills challenge, and then the main attraction, which is usually on a Sunday, the actual NBA All-Star Game. So what I want to talk about in today's show, I want to talk about my personal picks for the NBA All-Star team. Now, I want to preface this by saying, before some of y'all get mad, because I know somebody's going to get upset, but these are my picks for the NBA All-Star Game. It's a mixture of, who I think is going to make it, but who I really want to see on the team as well. So it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag there. But these are my personal picks. I'm not saying these are going to be the actual picks, but this is who I'm picking because this is my show. But let's talk about the All-Star Game a little bit. So as I was doing my research for the show, the results just came out today, which is, Thursday. I'm recording this. You'll be hearing this Friday. But LeBron James is now the leading vote getter in the NBA, whether that's, Eastern Conference, Western Conference. He has the most votes with 6.8 million votes that have been cast for LeBron James, which, it was previously Steph Curry, which Steph is at 6.0, or right at 6 million votes around there. But, we really shouldn't be surprised. We don't have, LeBron he just turned 37, I believe, last month. So we don't have much LeBron left. Obviously, his career is definitely winding down in terms of not necessarily like his ability, but like he's only got a few more years left. Father Time has never lost a matchup just yet. So this makes sense that he is the leading vote getter, which arguably he should be. Now he is still the king for a reason. I will say that about him. Obviously anybody who knows me in real life knows that I'm a certified LeBron James hater, but he's still the king. He's still, overall over everything, probably the best player in basketball, and he will be the king until he decides to retire. But he is the leading vote getter for the All-Star votes for this year's 2022 All-Star Game. Now, the starters will be revealed next week on TNT, Thursday night, the 27th. So we'll know who is going to be starting in the All-Star Game. But like I said, these are my picks, and this is who I want to see in the game coming up next month. So let's start in the Western Conference. So first guard that I want to see starting will be an easy one, Steph Curry. Steph right now is averaging 26 and 6, having a pretty solid season overall. So I've got Steph Curry starting in the All-Star Game for the Western Conference side. I've got Ja Morant starting in that second guard spot. Now this was a not necessarily a tough one, but this was an interesting one because Ja Morant's in his third season. But he is having a really, really solid year. And we're going to talk about him, in a little bit later on as well in the show. But he's averaging 24.7 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 6.9 assists. So for a third-year player, the leap that he has taken, he already came in and he was pretty good his rookie season. But to see the leap that he has made in his third season, the leader that he is, the attitude and everything, he is taking this Memphis Grizzlies team honestly to heights that, it's still, the regular season, so we're, roughly coming up about halfway. But he has taken this Memphis Grizzlies team to heights in terms of their record right now that I did not see. So shout out to Ja Morant. He's got my second guard spot for starters in the Western Conference. For forwards, easy one again, LeBron James, 28, 7, and 6, has the most 30-point games of any player currently this season. So LeBron James should obviously be starting, which he will. Now, the other forward spot was kind of interesting because there's some injuries that are going on in the Western Conference right now, like Paul George and Anthony Davis. I gave a slight edge to Paul George because he kind of, while he was playing, he's injured right now with an elbow injury. Thinks he's going to be out for a few more weeks. He is, at right now, as it stands, 24.7 rebounds, 5 assists so far on the season. Really had the Clippers playing pretty well and staying afloat in the absence of Kawhi Leonard. So I definitely feel like I gave a slight edge to Paul George. Definitely wasn't going to give it to Anthony Davis. He is not, I do not think he was an all-star this year. That's just my personal opinion. But Paul George, I would give the slight edge to him for the start. And then at forward/center, easy one again, Nikola Jokic. I mean, Jokic is having another MVP caliber season. He is the reigning MVP for a reason. 26 points, 14 rebounds, and 7 assists. I mean, he's the point guard in a center's body, truly a point center. I've never seen a guy his size be able to facilitate and pass the ball and play make the way he does. So Nikola Jokic, for sure, has to be a starter. At least he's my starter so far with the Western Conference starters. So that's what I got in the West in terms of starters. Let's look at the Eastern Conference and see who I believe is going to start for the Eastern Conference. So the East was not, the guards were kind of tough. So, I mean, this one wasn't too tough, the first one I'm about to say, but the second guard spot was kind of tough. But first guard spot, I've got DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan I've talked about a couple times on the show so far this year. He is having an incredible season. 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Like I said, MVP caliber season. I mean, back-to-back buzzer-beating games from a few weeks back. He is having the Chicago Bulls playing really, really well. But who I went with, like I said, which I mean, I don't think will happen. This is what I want to see. These are my picks. The second guard spot I actually gave to his teammate, Zach LaVine, in Chicago as well. Also averaging 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. So he is having a really solid season. And this part of the reason why I picked both of them is the way that Chicago is playing right now. I definitely felt that they kind of deserve both of them, DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, both to be in the All-Star game as starters this year. But forward spot, these are both pretty easy for the Eastern Conference All-Stars. You got Kevin Durant. I mean, averaging 29 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. I believe he is still the scoring leader in the NBA as of right now. And then the second forward spot, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, we all knew this. 28 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. And Giannis, as I was looking at statistics, he is actually shooting 71% from the free throw line, which is a vast improvement at what we have seen from Giannis over his 8-9-year career, if I'm not mistaken. I think he came in either 13 or 14, but we have seen that's a really high improvement for him. Now that last game in the finals of last year, Game 6, I think he went 15 of 17 or something like that from the free throw line, a crazy number. So he has the ability to make his free throw shots. So with him driving the way he does and consistently hitting free throws, it's a wrap. It's a wrap like Saran. But the other forward/center spot, this one, like I said, was pretty easy too. I've got Joel Embiid having a pretty solid season. Just dropped 50 points the other night, I think against the Orlando Magic, if I'm not mistaken. Which the Magic are terrible. But I mean, 50 points is 50 points. But averaging 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists on the season. Having Philadelphia play some pretty decent basketball in the absence of Ben Simmons. So that is who I got in terms of starters for the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference. You got Steph, John Morant, LeBron, Paul George, and Nikola Jokic on the West side. You've got DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Joel Embiid for the Eastern Conference side. Now, I know they changed the formatting. They pick captains now, so it won't be East versus West. It'll probably end up being Team LeBron versus whoever is the leading vote getter in the in the Eastern Conference, which will probably end up being Giannis again. But we'll see what happens. But I also wanted to say who I feel should be reserves as well. Some really good players who I think deserve spots on the team as well. Not starters, but reserves. I mean, nonetheless, which is no less a feat in and of itself. But let's talk about the Western Conference. So in terms of my reserves, this is what I got. I've got Luka Doncic in Dallas, pretty easy one. Devin Booker in Phoenix. They got Donovan Mitchell making the team from Utah as well. Forwards, I've got Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota having a surprisingly pretty good season. Rudy Gobert, which, I mean, he usually has pretty good regular seasons. I wanted to give the edge to him, but this is probably going to be a controversial one. I got Draymond Green. I've got Draymond Green on the All-Star team. His intangibles and what he does for that Golden State team, you can definitely see that they miss his presence. He's been out for a few games. They miss his presence out on the floor as their floor general and on-the-court coach. And this one, I will stand by. DeJounte Murray from San Antonio, guard from San Antonio, should be on the All-Star team this year. Like, he is not in the top 10 of leading vote getters in the Western Conference, which is pretty sad. But, I mean, let me take a look. I should have had his stats pulled up. I'm going to pull them up right now. Like, just the other night, I mean, this was the 19th, so Wednesday, Friday you're hearing this. He had 23 points, 10 rebounds, 14 assists. Like, I'm looking at some of his games from earlier in the week, about 2 weeks ago. January 14, 30 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists. Against the Rockets, 32 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists. Like, DeJounte Murray deserves to make the All-Star team. He's probably going to get snubbed, and I'm trying to be okay with that. But he is averaging 19 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 8.9 assists. So DeJounte Murray, you, sir, you deserve to be on the team. Probably going to get snubbed, and it breaks my heart. But DeJounte Murray really deserves to be on the team. I think he is second, if I'm not mistaken, second in most triple doubles for the season so far. Has San Antonio, I mean, look, let's face it, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. San Antonio's not that great. Like, they're just not a great team, but he is having them, like, he is the reason that we are winning most of our games. So I think DeJounte Murray deserves some love. Obviously, in a small market, he's probably not going to make the team, but he should, and I stand by that, and I'm being completely unbiased about that. But DeJounte Murray deserves to be on the All-Star team, but we'll see what happens. As far as the Eastern Conference goes, reserves, I've got Trae Young from Atlanta. I've got James Harden in Brooklyn making the team. I've got LaMelo Ball in Charlotte making the team. Jason Tatum from Boston. Fred VanVleet, let's give him some love. He has played really, really well for Toronto. Probably kind of a similar situation to DeJounte Murray. Probably won't end up making the team, but I think he deserves to be on the team. I've also got Miles Bridges on the team from Charlotte as well. Having a pretty good season. Definitely in the conversation for most improved player along with DeJounte Murray. And the last spot was kind of tough because it could have went a number of different ways, but I wanted to give the edge to Darius Garland, guard in Cleveland. He has played really, really well all season. Cleveland's kind of been overachieving, but have also kind of flew under the radar as well. Obviously, their post-LeBron era. But Darius Garland's had a really good season. So I definitely think he should make the team. Again, he probably won't end up making the team, but I definitely feel as if he should make the All-Star team. But that's who I got. That's who I got for the Western Conference. That's who I got for the Eastern Conference players. Like I said, I know they're picking captains, and they'll, do their thing, picking, I think, on February 10th, I saw, if I'm not mistaken. But should be fun. Should be pretty interesting to see what happens. I'll be curious to see how many of these that I ended up getting right in terms of starters and reserves. So we'll see what happens. But let's transition a little bit. Talking about the All-Star game, kind of when I was putting the show together, kind of made me think I wanted to talk about, so far, the MVP ladder that comes out from NBA.com every single week. And I kind of wanted to give my thoughts on what they have. So the Kia MVP ladder, right now, these are their top 10 in terms of who they believe is in the running for MVP. So this is what they've got so far. So they've got Giannis at number 1. They've got Nikola Jokic at number 2. Kevin Durant at number 3. Joel Embiid at number 4. DeMar DeRozan at number 5. Steph Curry at number 6. Ja Morant at number 7. CP3, which I thought was kind of interesting, at number 8. LeBron James at number 9. And Rudy Gobert at number 10. So that is their ladder, what they call the Kia MVP ladder of who they've got for in the running for MVP. So I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts and give my opinion about that. I kind of disagree with the order or ranking of most of it. Now, do they have Giannis, Jokic, KD, Embiid, and DeMar as their top 5? I would probably say for my top 5 MVP as of right now, Giannis is playing some really good basketball, but I would give the slight edge to Jokic because of the injuries that they have had on Denver and the fact that defense is focused on him mostly on the offensive end and kind of try to, eat him up on defensive end because he's, obviously arguably not the best on defense, but like his offense is so electric and so phenomenal. So I'd give a slight edge to Jokic. I would put Jokic at number 1 and then Giannis at number 2. I would probably keep Kevin Durant at number 3 right now. He was kind of the front runner early on and kind of, cool off a little bit now. Well, he's got an injury now. I forgot about that. He's got a knee injury, so he's going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks or whatever. But I'll keep him at number 3 for right now. And then my 4 and 5, I would probably put Ja Morant at number 4 and then probably keep DeMar DeRozan at number 5. So Ja Morant, I wanted to talk about him. Like I said, I was going to talk about him further in depth. Like he's just played incredibly well, and I want to give him credit. I want to shout him out. He is an incredible leader already in his 3rd season out of, I think he went to Murray State, if I'm not mistaken, so not even a big program. So Ja Morant, he's definitely MVP considerations. I would say, this sounds bad, but I would say most improved player wouldn't be enough for him. So Ja Morant, shout out to you, sir. You are top 5 MVP in my opinion. But let's go around the association and transition again to around the association where I talk about, some news and things that have come out from the NBA over this past week. So let's talk about kind of sad news in Chicago. Lonzo Ball, Bulls guard, will miss 6 to 8 weeks. Chicago guard, it says in the NBA.com article, has not played since January 14th due to a left knee injury that requires arthroscopic surgery, unfortunately. Now, he has missed 3 games since they lost to, they had their 42-point loss against Golden State last week. Coach Billy Donovan said that Wednesday the team had switched up his treatment, hoping he would have to avoid surgery after he didn't respond well to the initial regimen. Ball had the same knee scope in 2018 when he was with the Lakers. So he still is expected to travel with the team over the coming days, but unfortunately he will be out. Also, I mean, it's part of the story, but somewhat unrelated. Zach LaVine is also sidelined right now. So the Bulls have definitely hit a bit of a slump. They had that 42-point loss to Golden State. They had lost to somebody else pretty bad as well after having a really hot start and being number 1 in the Eastern Conference. But pretty sad to hear that, Lonzo Ball is going to be out for an extended period. But hey, it's not a season-ending injury, so I still see the Bulls as a playoff team for sure. But next story that I wanted to kind of highlight is Frank Vogel's job security, because that keeps coming up literally like every single day. Every other day I see a thing about, is Frank Vogel about to get fired? So there's a top story from the NBA.com. It says Lakers coach Frank Vogel blocking out noise about job security. Frank Vogel says he still believes the Lakers can fulfill their potential despite their 22-23 start that has stirred talk about his job security. They're asking about, whether he feels vulnerable about his job security, and Frank Vogel was quoted as saying, "I don't feel like I'm under siege. It's not hard to do my job. I'm very focused on the task at hand. I've always been that way." And the article says, it hasn't always been that way. In his first year as coach only 2 years ago, Vogel helped the Lakers win an NBA championship, obviously, in the bubble. Though that outcome largely had to do with the healthy LeBron teaming up with Anthony Davis, the Lakers credited Vogel for helping them navigate unique circumstances. So I definitely feel as if he's not getting a fair shake. The personnel that they have, arguably, is not better than that championship team that they had. This team doesn't fit as well. I mean, you have guys who really have never been tasked with playing defense. Like, since when is Carmelo Anthony ever, like supposed to get a stop for you? That just doesn't happen. Like, Trevor Ariza, yeah, he used to be a two-way player 10 years ago, but now he's just older. I mean, you've got guys like, Malik Monk and, Wayne Ellington, just not known as defensive guys. Avery Bradley, who used to be a pretty solid perimeter defender 5 years ago, it's just the personnel that they have is just not built for defense. And Frank Vogel is a defensive-minded coach, but like you can only do so much when you don't have the personnel to kind of back up your defensive scheme. So I definitely don't feel as if he's getting a fair shake, but that's just the way it goes. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets fired, soon. And don't get me wrong, he does not deserve to get fired. I think Frank Vogel is a pretty decent coach, but the Lakers want to win. But it's just the personnel. Like, I mean, they should probably trade Westbrook, but like, ain't nobody taking that contract. That's a story for another day. And let's transition to another story that I wanted to talk about. Not so much a story, but more of a rumor going on. Ben Simmons trade rumors. It says the Kings were considering a package for Ben Simmons. So, article from the Bleacher Report says the Sacramento Kings have reportedly considered a trade package of Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, and 2 first-round picks in exchange for Philadelphia's Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, and Matisse Thybulle. Now, it says Pompey noted that the Sixers weren't interested in this package, however, and added that sources have repeatedly said the Sixers are not interested in a deal involving De'Aaron Fox unless he's shipped to a third team, which I found this pretty interesting. So, the stories that Daryl Morey wants, a potential all-star, or game-changing type player back in Philadelphia, which, hey, I get. Ben Simmons is an all-star talent, but his trade value is so bad right now. Like, a deal for Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Harrison Barnes, and you get Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris contracts off the books, that's not a bad deal, like, in my opinion. I definitely said, like, I remember earlier on in one of the shows that I talked about Ben Simmons, like, a Sacramento trade surrounding De'Aaron Fox. I don't know why Philly wouldn't want De'Aaron Fox if Sacramento was willing to include him in a trade deal, because De'Aaron Fox is pretty good, and I think he would pair along pretty well with Joel Embiid. That's just my opinion. But that deal that I just read off, Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Harrison Barnes, and 2 first-round picks for Simmons, Harris, and Matisse Thybulle, that's not a bad deal. Like, I definitely think Daryl Morey should reconsider, because right now, with the way it looks like it, the trade deadline is going to come up here in the next couple of weeks, and Ben Simmons isn't going to be moved. So he's literally going to be sitting on the bench for an entire season, which is crazy, because they're still paying him. Like, I don't think he's getting fined right now because he's out for mental health reasons. So he's still getting paid. So, like, they got to move him before the trade deadline. Like, they have to move on from Ben Simmons because of this whole situation. But we'll see what happens. Let's transition one final time for this episode and talk about marquee matchups. So if you remember last week, the 3 games that I had picked out were, let me go back to them, Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers, the New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks, and the Utah Jazz and the Denver Nuggets. So I went 2 for 3 for last weekend. I picked the Sixers beating the Celtics. I picked the Atlanta Hawks beating the Knicks, which the Knicks ended up winning that game, so I was wrong about that one. But I did correctly pick the Utah Jazz beating the Denver Nuggets last week. So that brought my record to 13-8 out of 21 games. Not too bad, considering I started off below 500 for the first, 6 or 7 games. So I want to give my marquee matchups this weekend, games that I think you should look out for, games that I think are going to be pretty good, and you should watch if you have the time. So Friday night, tonight's game is a pretty good one between 2 Eastern Conference powerhouses, Chicago Bulls and the Milwaukee Bucks. You have Saturday coming up. I picked out wasn't a whole lot of games on Saturday, but I picked out the Indiana Pacers and the Phoenix Suns. I think that could be a pretty decent game. And then Sunday's game, you have the Memphis Grizzlies and the Dallas Mavericks, 2 teams that are pretty. I think that's 4 and 5 in the Western Conference, if I'm not mistaken. So that should be a pretty good one. A potential, maybe early playoff matchup. But for Friday's game, I've got Milwaukee beating the Chicago Bulls. I know the Chicago Bulls are dealing with some injuries right now, like with Lonzo, and I don't think Zach LaVine's going to be playing tonight for tonight's game, so I will pick the Bucks, Milwaukee's, that is, to win this game. Saturday's game, tomorrow's game, I'm going to pick the Suns at home to beat the Pacers, and then Sunday's game, this was kind of a toss-up. Like, I'm kind of torn on this one. I'm going to pick the Grizzlies to win on the road against Dallas. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Luka goes off and the Dallas Mavericks win that game, because they've been kind of streaking lately and been playing some really good basketball. I think they're actually playing the Phoenix Suns right now, and they're doing pretty well. But I am going to pick the Memphis Grizzlies to win on the road. So Hopefully that brings me to 16-8, but we'll see what happens. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all the show I have for you this Friday. I hope, as I always say, that you have a wonderful weekend. If you can do all the good things, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, like. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, rate the podcast, leave comments, subscribe, all that good stuff. I am excited about next week. Next week I'll be doing 2 shows, so I'll be doing my end of the month show on Tuesday, tentatively, and then next week our standard Friday show. But like I said, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe out there, play hard, and I will see you on Tuesday, preferably. Take care.
Yeah, told him I'ma hit it out of stands. I deserve another 100 bands. I deserve another 100 fans. Told them this was always in the plans. I just did it cause they said I can. Blowing euros when I'm down in France. Labels asking how I build a brand. Told them put a check up in my hands. Boy got time, no cap. Made a few checks, but they all in the raps. Had a few friends, but they suck in the past. I don't even trip when I'm thinking about that. Hopped in the whip and we all in black. Shawty wanna ride